a killer whale off the coast of South Africa, has been caught on camera hunting and killing a great white shark. A single orca, isolating, overpowering, and surgically extracting the liver of one of the ocean's most feared predators. It was a stunning moment, but it was also a clue, because those South African orcas don't hunt like the ones we've watched in documentaries off the Pacific Northwest. They don't sound like them. They don't socialize like them. And increasingly, scientists believe they may not even be the same animal. That's the bigger story. Not just one dramatic kill, but a growing body of evidence suggesting that the creature we call the killer whale may not be one species at all. And the implications go far beyond taxonomy. For the longest time, orcas were considered a single species, Orcinus orca, one global predator, roaming every ocean from pole to equator, hunting everything from fish to seals to whales. But over time, cracks appeared in that idea. It started with subtle questions. Why do some orcas use echolocation constantly, while others remain eerily silent? Why do certain pods specialize in fish, while others go after sea lions or porpoises, and never switch? And most strangely, why don't these groups ever interbreed, even when they share the same waters for centuries? These weren't just behavioral quirks, they were red flags. Scientists recognized these distinct groupings, called ecotypes, as far back as the 1970s and 80s. For decades, researchers cataloged the differences, tagged individuals, sequenced DNA, and built a case piece by piece. And by 2024, that case reached a tipping point. A landmark study led by Philip Morin and colleagues proposed what many had long suspected: the orcas we've been calling transients. A term that once meant roaming or outcast, are not just a variation. They may be a completely separate species. The proposed name, Orcinus rectipinus, if accepted by the broader scientific community, it would be the first new orca species recognized in over a century. At a glance, transient and resident orcas look nearly identical. Same black and white pattern, same sleek silhouette. But dig deeper, and the differences become staggering. Transients are the silent assassins of the sea. While resident orcas fill the ocean with sonar clicks to hunt slippery salmon, transients say nothing. They glide like shadows, relying on passive listening to track seals and porpoises, prey that can hear echolocation and evade it. One click could give them away, so they don't click, they stalk, they wait, and when the moment comes, they strike with brutal efficiency. Their bodies reflect this lifestyle. Transients tend to be slightly larger, with bulkier jaws and more robust frames. Their teeth often show heavy wear, not from chewing fish, but from a lifetime of processing marine mammals. Skin, blubber, and bone. They move in small, tight-knit pods, often just a mother and her offspring, acting with precision more akin to a tactical unit than a roaming herd. Their hunts are not chaotic chases, they're coordinated takedowns. But here's where it gets even stranger. Despite overlapping territories in the North Pacific, residents and transients have never been documented interbreeding. Not once. That's almost unheard of in marine mammals. And when scientists sequenced their DNA, they uncovered a possible reason. The genetic split between these two groups may go back roughly 300,000 years. To put that in perspective, that's older than modern Homo sapiens. While our ancestors were learning to chip stone tools, these orca lineages had already begun diverging along separate evolutionary paths, one becoming the fish-chasing, sonar-singing residents, the other becoming the silent, strategic mammal hunters we now call transients. This isn't just about preference or habit. It shows the hallmarks of speciation. Over hundreds of thousands of years, the two groups developed distinct behaviors, body structures, and genetic profiles. Their social systems diverged. Their hunting methods evolved independently. Researchers have identified differences in immune-related genes, and some evidence suggests possible neurological specialization, though that area is still being explored. These aren't minor variations. These are populations that have been strangers to each other for longer than our species has existed. So why did it take so long to reach this point? The signs were there for decades. The diet, the silence, the social structure, the reproductive isolation. Scientists saw all of it. They documented it meticulously. But taxonomy moves slowly and deliberately, for good reason. Declaring a new species requires overwhelming evidence, genetic, morphological, ecological, and behavioral, and broad consensus within the scientific community. For years, the differences were classified as ecotypic variation, distinct populations of the same species adapting to different niches. And that was a reasonable interpretation, given what was known at the time. But as the genetic data deepened and the behavioral evidence mounted, the old framework began to buckle. There's also something subtler at play: familiarity. We assumed we knew orcas. They're among the most studied marine animals on Earth. They're in our aquariums, our documentaries, our cultural imagination. And so, when a transient orca refused to vocalize, it was easy to call it quiet rather than question whether it was something fundamentally different. We explained away the differences rather than let them challenge our assumptions. Now the evidence has forced the question into the open. And while the reclassification isn't finalized, it still awaits review and acceptance by taxonomic authorities. The case is strong enough that the scientific conversation has shifted from whether these are separate species to how many orca species there actually are. And that's where the South African orcas come back into the picture. Because the transient residence split in the North Pacific may be just the beginning. Around the world, researchers have identified multiple distinct orca ecotypes, types A, B, C, and D in Antarctic waters, different forms in the North Atlantic, and now those shark hunting specialists off South Africa, each with their own prey, behaviors, social structures, and potentially their own genetic signatures. If the transient reclassification is accepted, it opens the door to a much bigger question. How many species have we been lumping together under one name? Culture. That may be the key to understanding how this happened. For years, many scientists were cautious about the idea that animal behavior could drive evolution. Animals learn from each other, sure, but could social traditions actually shape genetics over time? Orcas are becoming one of the strongest arguments that they can. Transients don't just hunt differently, they teach differently. A calf doesn't instinctively know how to ambush a seal hauled out on a beach. It learns by watching its mother season after season, absorbing every move, every approach angle, every timing cue. Residents do the same, but their curriculum is different. Salmon runs, sonar techniques, social songs. This kind of social learning, culture, is passed down like language, generation after generation, and over deep time, it appears to have shaped not just minds, but bodies. Populations that specialize in different prey develop different jaw structures, different tooth wear, different body proportions. They stop interacting with groups that hunt differently. They stop breeding with them, and eventually, they stopped being the same species. Culture isn't just a soft concept anymore. In orcas, it appears to be a biological force, one that can drive populations apart as effectively as a mountain range or an ocean current. But this isn't just a scientific revelation. It's a conservation reckoning. Because if these groups are truly separate species, or even just deeply distinct populations, then our conservation strategies need to match that reality. For decades, management frameworks have treated all orcas as one adaptable population. But the needs of transients and residents are radically different. Transients are currently doing well in many regions. Their prey, seals, sea lions, porpoises, has rebounded under marine mammal protections, and transient populations have grown in response. Residents are in crisis. The southern resident population in the Pacific Northwest hovers around 75 individuals. Their primary food source, Chinook salmon, is disappearing due to overfishing, dam construction, and climate change. And here's the painful part. Residents don't switch prey, not because they're physically incapable, but because they lack the cultural knowledge to do so. They've never learned to hunt marine mammals. They don't have the techniques, the stealth, the coordination. Their entire identity, their social structure, their vocal traditions, their ecological role is built around salmon. When an elder matriarch dies, the one who remembers where the salmon run in lean years, who carries decades of navigational knowledge, the pod doesn't just lose a leader, it loses part of its living memory, its cultural inheritance, its survival playbook. Treating these populations as interchangeable has real consequences. It means conservation dollars and policy attention get spread thin instead of targeted where they're most urgently needed. And the implications reach beyond orcas. Elephants mourn their dead and revisit burial sites across generations. Parrots develop regional dialects. Crows teach their young to recognize specific human faces as threats. Dolphins pass down specialized hunting techniques, like using sponges to protect their snouts while foraging. Culture exists throughout the animal kingdom. And if the orca story teaches us anything, it's that cultural divides can run deep enough to become biological ones. How many other species might be quietly diverging along cultural lines, hidden behind identical appearances? The orca isn't the only species that might be hiding in plain sight. It's just the one that finally forced us to take the question seriously. Here's what stays with me. This discovery didn't come from a lost corner of the map. It didn't come from the deep ocean or an unexplored island. It came from one of the most watched, most filmed, most studied animals on the planet. It was swimming right beside us the whole time, teaching its young, hunting in silence, carrying the weight of 300,000 years of divergent history. We just weren't asking the right questions. The orcas didn't change. We did. So the next time you see that iconic black fin cutting through the waves, remember, it might not be the killer whale you think you know. It might be something else entirely. Something older. Something stranger. A species shaped not just by mutation, but by memory. What do you think? How many other species might be hiding cultural divides right under our noses? Let us know in the comments. And if this story opened your eyes, subscribe. Because in science, the biggest discoveries don't always come from the unknown. Sometimes they come from the places we thought we understood.